The galaxy had learned to fear humanity too late. For 3,000 cycles, the dominion of the celestial throne had ruled the spiral arm with absolute authority. 17 species bent beneath their crystal ships, their plasma cannons, their mathematical certainty that order could be imposed upon chaos. The throne spoke, and worlds knelt. Dissent was not crushed. It was simply corrected, made logical, made obedient. And then came the humans from Sol. They arrived not with surrender but with silence. When the Dominion's survey fleet found Earth, they catalogued it with detached scientific precision. Gravity 2.3 times standard. Atmosphere thick with nitrogen and oxygen. Tectonic activity that would terrify any civilized species. A death world by every reasonable metric. Yet somehow, impossibly, it had produced a sentient species. The Dominion made the same mistake every empire makes. They assumed survival meant weakness. They assumed desperation meant compliance. They assumed that a species which had clawed its way from extinction a dozen times would understand the wisdom of submission. They were wrong. 27 standard years after first contact, the red dwarf Epsilon Reticuli burned like an infected wound against the void, and beneath its crimson glare the colony of New Brisbane was dying. Commander Dante Cross stood in the observation deck of Outpost 7, watching plasma fire arc across the settlement's defensive grid. Each impact sent cascading failures through the power network, flickering the lights in his bunker like a heartbeat growing faint. Behind him, 37 civilians huddled in what used to be a storage bay. Farmers, engineers, children who'd never seen Earth's blue sky, only this alien red. "Commander," Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Southern perimeter is collapsing. The throne's walkers are pushing through Sector 9. We've got maybe 20 minutes before they breach the central hub." Dante didn't turn from the window. Couldn't. "Something about watching your world end demanded witnesses." "Acknowledged," he said, voice flat as vacuum. "Initiate protocol exodus. Get everyone to the underground transit. We'll buy you whatever time we can." "Sir." "That's an order, Lieutenant." Silence answered him. Then, "Understood. We'll see you on the other side." They both knew she was lying. Dante activated his rifle's charge pack, feeling the familiar hum travel up his arms. Standard issue railgun, capable of punching through 6 inches of composite armor at 300 meters. Against the Dominion's crystalline warforms, it might as well have been a sharp stick. But humans had learned something during their brief bloody education in galactic warfare. You didn't need to win every fight. You just needed to make them pay for every inch. "Alpha Squad, converge on my position." His voice carried the weight of a man who'd already written his eulogy. "We're going to give our people one last sunrise." 8 acknowledgements pinged back. 8 souls who understood that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was the decision to fight anyway when every rational calculation screamed surrender. The Dominion would learn this lesson repeatedly, carved into the flesh of their warriors. Some species kneel when death approaches. Humans charge. Aboard the Dominion dreadnought, Eternal Correctness, High Adjudicator Vukral of the Third Ascension studied the tactical display with the dispassionate precision his species was genetically engineered for. The Zelthri were the Dominion's administrators, their 4-lobed brains capable of processing 17 parallel thought streams simultaneously. Emotion was a controllable variable, optimized for maximum efficiency. Yet something about the human resistance patterns triggered what his species would never call frustration. "Status report," he commanded, his translator rendering his harmonics into flat standard. "Battle coordinator Ginix, acrylic." All chitinous plates and methodical violence gestured to the holographic representation of New Brisbane. "The colony's defensive grid has sustained 83% structural failure. Casualty projections indicate total civilian evacuation within 14.6 minutes. Our ground forces will secure the central hub." The display flickered. A new marker appeared on the outskirts of Sector 9. 8 small signatures, human biosigns, moving not away from the Dominion's advancing walkers but toward them. "Explain this anomaly," Buckrell said. Junix tilted his triangular head, compound eyes refracting the display light into fragments. "Uncertain. Tactical analysis suggests suicide attack." No. Human combat doctrine indicates delaying action. They're sacrificing themselves to buy evacuation time. Inefficient, Vauquerel stated. 8 combatants cannot meaningfully delay an armored division. Affirmative. Shall I order the walkers to eliminate them? Vauquerel considered this. The Dominion had been fighting humanity for 2 decades, and in that time he'd learned something the military academies never taught. Humans didn't operate on efficient mathematics. They operated on stories, legends, the irrational belief that one person's defiance could alter the trajectory of history. Sometimes, improbably, they were right. Proceed, he said. But record everything. High Command wants documentation of human combat psychology. When we finally break their homeworld, we'll need to understand what makes them so persistently irrational. The walkers advanced 3-story war machines that moved on legs of articulated crystal plasma cannons mounted where arms should be. Against 8 humans with conventional weapons, the outcome was predetermined. Vauquerel watched the engagement through orbital surveillance. The humans didn't run. They set up overlapping fields of fire, using terrain the walkers would consider inconsequential. When the first walker entered their kill zone, they opened fire not on the machine's armor but on the ground beneath it, collapsing a camouflaged fuel depot that erupted with enough force to stagger the war machine. 2 more humans sprinted forward, planted magnetic charges on the walkers' joints, then dove into cover as their comrades detonated the explosives remotely. The walker's leg buckled, sending it crashing into its neighbor. Fascinating, Vauquerel murmured. Ginix's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. They're not trying to destroy the walkers. They're creating obstacles, forcing the column to slow reroute. Tactically sound, given their resource limitation. The second walker recovered, targeting the human position with its main cannon. The plasma bolt turned a 20-meter radius into molten glass, but the humans had already moved. They fought like their planet had taught them, with the cunning of persistence predators, the adaptability of apex survivors. When firepower failed, they used terrain. When terrain failed, they used speed. When speed failed, they used sacrifice. One by one, the 8 signatures on Vauquerel's display winked out, but the walker column was delayed by 17 minutes. Long enough for the civilian transports to disappear into the underground rail system. Long enough for hope to escape, even as the city burned. Vauquerel deactivated the feed, his thought streams processing the implications. Increase fleet presence in this sector by 40%. The humans are preparing something. Evidence? Ginix asked. They're making us pay too dearly for worthless territory. That's not desperation. Vauquerel's harmonics carried an unusual modulation, something almost resembling respect. That's strategy. 3 weeks later, Earth, Geneva Fortress. Admiral Catherine Jane didn't sleep anymore. Couldn't afford the luxury of nightmares when reality demanded every waking moment. The War Council chamber was carved from the bones of an old mountain, reinforced with alloys that could withstand orbital bombardment. Around the circular table sat humanity's last hope: generals, scientists, politicians who'd learned that ideological differences meant nothing when extinction was the alternative. New Brisbane fell 4 days ago, she began, her voice steady despite the weight crushing her chest. We evacuated 68% of the civilian population before the Dominion glassed the site. Commander Cross and his squad bought them the time they needed. Silence answered her. The kind of silence that held too many names, too many empty chairs. General Richard Okonkwo, his face lined with battles stretching back to the first Dominion incursion, leaned forward. 68% is better than most colonies have managed. But we're losing ground, Admiral. Every month they push deeper into our territory. How long before they reach the core worlds? 18 months, Dr. Amara Patel said, her tablet displaying projections that looked like a countdown to oblivion, unless something changes dramatically. The Dominion has 13 times our industrial capacity, 47 times our fleet strength, and they control the primary hyperspace lanes. Logistically speaking, we've already lost. Logistically, Zhang repeated, letting the word hang like an accusation. But we're still here, Doctor. Still fighting. That counts for something. It counts for defiance, not victory. Identity Senator Lu Feng interjected, his political instincts warring with the patriot beneath. I'm not suggesting surrender. I'd sooner die. But we need to acknowledge reality. The Dominion offers terms, subjugation, integration into their empire as a client species. We'd lose autonomy, but we'd survive. As what? Okonkwo's question cracked like thunder. As pets? As second-class citizens in our own cities? My ancestors fought for freedom from oppression. I'll be damned if I trade one tyrant for another just because this one has better technology. Pride won't save our children. Enough. Zhang's voice cut through the argument with surgical precision. When the room settled, she activated the central hologram, a star chart of the local sector, with one system highlighted in pulsing amber. We've received intelligence from Rakanus Division Gamma. Deep penetration mission, high casualties, but they got us something valuable. She zoomed the display to show a crystalline structure orbiting a gas giant. This is the nexus of Corval, the Dominion's regional command hub. Every fleet movement, every strategic decision in this sector flows through that station. Patel studied the image, her scientific mind racing. It's protected by 6 capital ships, orbital defense platforms, and it's positioned in the gravity well of a supermassive planet. The energy requirements alone to mount an assault are enormous, Zhang agreed, which is why we're not going to assault it. The room leaned forward as one. We're going to steal it. The silence that followed was the kind where history holds its breath. Okonkwo spoke first, his voice careful. Elaborate. Zhang expanded the display, showing schematics that looked like fever dreams sketched by engineers who'd forgotten the word impossible. The Nexus isn't just a command center, it's a hyperspace relay. It amplifies quantum entanglement across stellar distances, allowing near-instantaneous communication. Dominion doctrine requires every decision above tactical level to be verified through the Nexus. It's their strength. She smiled, and it was not kind. It's also their vulnerability. You want to cut their communications, Lu Feng said, understanding dawning. Better. I want to subvert them. Zhang pulled up another file, this one marked with security clearances, so high even most council members didn't have access. For 6 years, we've had a mole inside Dominion intelligence. An alien defector who understands their systems better than they do. He's provided us with access codes, security protocols, and a window precisely 4 hours and 17 minutes, when the station's defensive grid undergoes quantum realignment. A mole? Patel's skepticism was palpable. One of their own species is helping us. Why? Because, a new voice said from the chamber entrance, not everyone in the galaxy believes the Dominion's version of order is worth the cost. The figure that entered moved with a grace that seemed wrong for its mass. Tall, bipedal, but wrong somehow, with skin that shifted between blue and gray depending on the light. Its eyes, too many eyes, focused on each council member in turn, reading them the way a human might read a book. Council. Zhang said, meet Kixlar of the Ithmara. The species the Dominion conquered 700 years ago. The species they've been trying to integrate ever since. And the species that's finally decided integration is just another word for extinction. Kixlar's translator rendered his speech into English with an unsettling harmony. Humanity is not the first to resist the throne, but you might be the first with a chance to win. My people have been patient. We've learned their systems, infiltrated their hierarchies, waited for someone desperate and clever enough to attempt the impossible. He gestured to the hologram. We give you the keys to the Nexus. You give us the chaos we need to break our chains. And if we fail, Okonkwo asked, then we die together, Kixlar said simply. But we die free. Zhang looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. This is it. Our one shot. We hit the Nexus during their realignment window, take control of their communications network, and broadcast a message to every subjugated species in the Dominion. Rebellion is possible, freedom is worth fighting for. And humanity will stand with anyone brave enough to reach for it. You're asking us to gamble everything on a theft operation, Lu Feng said. No, Senator. I'm asking you to gamble everything on hope. Tang's smile was iron-wrapped in flesh. Because hope is the most dangerous weapon humanity has ever created. And it's time we taught the galaxy why Deathworlders don't surrender. When do we move? Okonkwo asked. 72 hours. We've assembled a strike team. The best we have, soldiers, pilots, engineers, and one alien defector who knows every secret the Dominion thinks is safe. Zhang powered down the hologram, plunging the room into the softer light of emergency LEDs. Get your people ready. This is either going to change the war or end it. What's the mission designation? The Tell asked. Zhang's eyes reflected the dying red glow of the display. Operation Prometheus. 48 hours later, outer system of Corval. The stealth ship Nightfall drifted through the dark spaces between worlds, its hull coated in metamaterial that bent sensor waves around it like water around a stone. Inside, 12 humans and one Mara prepared for the kind of mission that would either be remembered forever or forgotten immediately. Captain Ilara Voss reviewed the infiltration plan for the 100th time, her cybernetic eye overlaying tactical data on her natural vision. Former Special Operations, survivor of 14 deep insertion missions behind Dominion lines, she'd lost her eye on Outpost Kepler, lost her fear somewhere between there and here. Final equipment check, she ordered, her voice carrying through the cramped troop bay. Once we breach the Nexus, there's no extraction until the job's done. We either take that station, or we don't come back. Comforting. Lieutenant James Park muttered, checking his plasma cutter for the 3rd time. Demolitions expert, comedian by necessity, terrified by reality but too stubborn to show it. Corporal Indira Nkosi, combat engineer and the team's resident miracle worker, looked up from her tablet. I've triple-checked Killa's access codes. They're authentic. Dominion quantum encryption. Updated 72 hours ago. Either he's the real deal, or this is the most elaborate trap in military history. Korkslar's form shifted slightly, a Yithmara expression that might have been amusement. If I wanted you dead, Captain, I would have simply reported your fleet positions to Dominion intelligence. Instead, I'm risking torture and genetic dissolution to help you commit grand theft. Perhaps you could extend a small measure of trust. Trust is earned, Voss said flatly. You'll get yours when we're standing inside that command center with our objective secured. Fair. The ship's AI chimed softly. Approaching insertion point. Quantum realignment begins in 9 minutes. Voss stood, magnetic boots clicking against the deck. Listen up. We've got one shot at this. The Nexus defense grid goes into diagnostic mode for 4 hours and 17 minutes. During that window, we're not invisible, we're just significantly harder to detect. Kistler gets us inside through the maintenance umbilical. We make our way to the Central Intelligence Core, upload the virus that gives us control, then hold position while the engineers reprogram the station. And if something goes wrong, Park asked, then we improvise. It's what humans do best. She didn't add what they were all thinking. If they failed here, the war ended. Earth would fall within 2 years, and humanity would join the long list of species the Dominion had crushed into compliance. No pressure. The Nightfall aligned with the station's maintenance structure, a crystalline umbilical that pulsed with the same eerie bioluminescence that characterized all Dominion technology. Kuxlar interfaced with the docking port, his genetic material triggering recognition protocols that identified him as authorized personnel. The hatch cycled open. Beyond lay corridors of impossible geometry, where walls curved in ways that hurt human eyes to follow. The Dominion built their ships according to mathematics that predated most species' understanding of physics. Stay close, humans whispered. The station's internal sensors are active. I can mask our presence for approximately 43 minutes. After that, we'll need to rely on speed and violence. They moved through the alien architecture like ghosts, each step calculated, every breath controlled. Twice they encountered Dominion security drones, and twice Nkosi's electromagnetic pulse devices rendered them inert before alarms could trigger. The Central Intelligence Core loomed ahead, a cathedral of crystal and light, where data streams flowed like rivers through impossible spaces. At its heart, the Nexus itself pulsed with the accumulated knowledge of 17 conquered species. This is it, Voss breathed, and then the lights changed from blue to crimson. Alarms shrieked in frequencies that made human bones ache. Korkslar's color shifted to something like horror. Impossible. They knew. From every corridor, war forms emerged. Dominion soldiers designed for shipboard combat, their bodies optimized for lethality in confined spaces. Voss raised her weapon knowing with terrible clarity that they'd been betrayed or predicted or simply unlucky. It didn't matter which. "Contact," she screamed. "All units, weapons free. We fight our way to the core." The battle that followed would be recorded in both human and Dominion archives as the beginning of the end. Plasma met kinetic rounds in the narrow spaces of alien corridors. Humans died. Aliens died. The mathematics of violence played out in blood and fire. And through it all, one thought sustained Voss as she fought. We don't have to win. We just have to make them bleed. The station shuddered as explosions rippled through its crystal lattice. In the command center, High Adjudicator Vokral watched the human assault with something approaching fascination. They'd anticipated this attack. Kustrer's defection had been allowed, his intelligence carefully poisoned with just enough truth to make the trap believable. "Should we terminate them?" Janix asked, mandibles clicking with eagerness. Vokral considered. The humans had fought through 4 defensive layers, losing half their number but never retreating. Even now, with capture certain and death probable, they pressed forward. "No," he said softly. "Let them reach the core. I want to see what they'll do when they realize they've already lost." But in the corridors below, covered in blood, not all of it alien, Captain Alara Voss smiled. Because tucked in her armor's lining was a second objective. One not even her own command knew about. One that would burn the Dominion's certainty to ash. She keyed her comm to a frequency only 3 people in the galaxy knew existed. Prometheus Protocol. Active. Deliver the fire. And somewhere in the dark between stars, a human ship received the signal, changed course, and aimed its payload at the heart of everything the Dominion held sacred. The Nexus station trembled like a dying star. Captain Alara Voss pressed herself against a corridor wall, feeling the crystalline structure vibrate with frequencies that made her teeth ache. Around her, what remained of her strike team held defensive positions. 6 humans now, down from 12, each one painted in blood and burn marks that told stories of survival measured in seconds. "Lieutenant Park," she barked into her comm. "I need that door open now." Working on it, Park's voice crackled back, strained with effort and pain. He'd taken a plasma bolt to his left arm 20 minutes ago, but still worked his cutting torch with the precision of a surgeon. Dominion security protocols are the torch sparked against alien metal significantly more complicated than advertised. "We don't have complicated. We have 30 seconds before they flank us." Voss fired a 3-round burst down the corridor, her railgun punching through a Krellic warrior's thorax armor. The creature collapsed, each her spraying in patterns that defied gravity. 2 more stepped over its corpse without hesitation. The Dominion didn't mourn its soldiers. It simply manufactured more. Behind her, Corporal Indira Nankosi worked frantically at a portable terminal, fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that shifted between human and alien architecture. "Captain, I've isolated the core's access node, but there's something wrong with the data structure. Kixler's codes work, but the security matrix it's like it's watching us. Adapting." "Because it is." Kixler's voice came from deeper in their defensive perimeter, his form partially concealed by a twisted support beam. The Withmara had taken damage too, gouges across his shifting skin where Dominion weapons had found purchase. "Vokral, that calculating bastard, he didn't just allow our infiltration, he's observing it. Studying human combat response in real time." Voss felt ice crystallize in her stomach. "This is a laboratory. We're the experiment." "Correct. Which means..." The door behind them exploded inward with a concussive blast that sent Park sprawling. Through the breach, more warforms poured like an avalanche of lethal intention. But these weren't the standard soldiers they'd been fighting. These were executors, Dominion elite units, their crystalline armor inscribed with mathematical proofs that somehow made them more, faster, deadlier. "Fall back?" Voss screamed, but there was nowhere to fall back to. They were pinned between 2 advancing forces, caught in a killing zone that had been designed with surgical precision. Park struggled to his knees, his good arm reaching for his sidearm. "Boss, I don't suppose you've got a plan B hidden somewhere?" Voss met his eyes, saw the fear there, saw the determination beneath it. "Yeah," she said, pulling a crystalline data chip from her armor's inner pocket. "We stopped playing their game." She tossed the chip to Nikasi. Upload it now. What is this? Nikosi caught it reflexively, her engineer's mind already cataloging its alien design. Something Admiral Zong gave me insurance policy. She called it the Prometheus burn. A virus designed not to steal the Nexus's data but to ignite it, overload every quantum processor simultaneously, turn the entire station into a massive electromagnetic pulse that'll fry every Dominion ship in the system. That'll kill us too, Park observed mildly. Probably. Voss fired again, dropping another executor. Her ammunition counter read 11 rounds remaining, but it'll cripple their regional command structure. Buy Earth another year. Maybe more. Korsler's colors shifted to something like respect. A suicide mission within a suicide mission. Humans truly are magnificently insane. We prefer creatively desperate. Voss slammed a fresh magazine home. Nixier? How long? Give me 2 minutes to bypass the Corps' immune protocols. You have 90 seconds. Kosi's fingers blurred. Around them, the defensive perimeter collapsed moment by moment. Private Kwame Osie took a plasma bolt to the chest, his dying scream cut short as his suit's emergency medical systems tried and failed to stop the catastrophic damage. Sergeant Liu Chen covered him, firing with the mechanical precision of someone who'd accepted death hours ago. 60 seconds. Voss's rifle clicked empty. She transitioned to her sidearm, placing shots with the careful economy of someone who'd learned ammunition was just another form of time. Each bullet bought another heartbeat, another breath, another second for Nikosi to work her miracle. 45 seconds. The executors broke through their left flank. Chen went down screaming. Park threw himself at the nearest warform, detonating a magnetic charge at point-blank range. The explosion painted the corridor in light and horror. 30 seconds. Nikosi, Voss's voice cracked. Almost. There, the Corps' quantum firewall is fragmenting. But I need... Nikosi slammed the interface closed. Virus uploaded. Activation requires manual confirmation at the Corps' central nexus. Physical contact. Of course it does. Voss looked at what remained of her team. 2 humans still standing. 1 alien defector, who'd already sacrificed everything. Korsler, can you get us to the nexus? Yes, but Vokarel will anticipate this. He'll have concentrated his forces at the core. Then we go through them. Voss ejected her empty magazine, loaded her last one. 7 rounds. Because that's what Deathworlders do. They charged into the teeth of impossible odds. And the universe held its breath. Dominion Dreadnought. Eternal correctness. High Command Chamber. High Adjudicator Vokarel watched the human assault with 17 parallel thought streams, simultaneously processing tactical, psychological, and strategic implications. His species had been engineered to solve problems with mathematical precision, to reduce chaos to ordered data. But humans were the variable that refused calculation. They've uploaded something, Battle Coordinator Genix reported, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic display. Viral code penetrating the Nexus's quantum processors. Purpose unknown, but energy signatures suggest catastrophic potential. I calculated this possibility at 67% probability. Vorfail said, his harmonics carrying something almost like admiration. They knew their primary mission was compromised, so they prepared a secondary objective. Remarkable adaptability. Shall I order station evacuation? No. Vokarel's decision was instant, absolute. If we abandon the Nexus, we validate their sacrifice. We prove that a handful of humans can force the entire Dominion to retreat. That narrative cannot be allowed to propagate. He adjusted the display, focusing on the 3 figures fighting their way toward the Central Intelligence Corps. Dispatch the arbiters of final correction. I want the humans captured alive if possible, terminated if necessary. But that virus must not reach activation threshold. Understood. Genix's mandibles clicked in acknowledgement. And the Ithmara traitor. Genetic dissolution. His lineage will be erased from historical record. His clan name will become synonymous with failure. Vokarel paused, his thought streams converging on a single uncomfortable conclusion. But archive his tactical contribution. When we break humanity's spirit, We'll need to understand why even our client species find them inspiring. The word tasted wrong in his consciousness, like a mathematical proof that shouldn't work but somehow did. On the display, the humans reached the core's outer chamber, a cathedral of crystalline intelligence where 17 species accumulated knowledge pulsed in quantum superposition. The arbiters waited inside, 6 of the Dominion's most lethal warriors, each one a masterwork of biological and technological integration. The humans didn't hesitate. They attacked. The Central Intelligence Corps, Captain Ilara Voss, had long since stopped counting the odds. When you faced 6 arbiters, creatures engineered specifically to eliminate high-value targets with maximum efficiency, mathematics became irrelevant. You simply fought and hoped that skill and desperation would bridge the gap where rational thought failed. She ducked beneath a plasma blade that would have bisected her skull, felt the heat singe her hair, rolled forward and put 2 rounds into an arbiter's optical cluster. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Its secondary eyes activated, tracking her movement with predictive algorithms that anticipated her next 3 actions. Voss chose a 4th option. Grabbed a piece of shrapnel from the floor, hurled it with the full force of Earth's punishing gravity training, and watched it punch through the arbiter's primary brain case. Never predict a Deathworlder, she thought savagely. We don't fight smart. We fight mean. Beside her, Kixlar moved with desperate grace, his Ithmara biology allowing for angles of attack that would snap a human spine. He grappled with an arbiter twice his mass, his skin shifting texture to grip surfaces that should have been frictionless. The Nexus, he screamed, 20 meters ahead. I can see the activation interface. But between them and salvation stood 4 more arbiters, and behind those, the core itself. A sphere of concentrated quantum intelligence that hummed with the certainty of dominion, the mathematical proof that order would always triumph over chaos. Voss looked at Nikosi, saw the same grim understanding reflected back. Covering fire, she ordered. Get to the Nexus. Activate the burn. Captain, you'll be. I know what I'll be. Voss checked her ammunition. 4 rounds. But this stops here. One way or another we end their certainty. Nikosi hesitated for one precious heartbeat, then nodded, sprinted forward while Voss and Kexlar turned themselves into a wall of defiant flesh and fury. The arbiters converged with surgical precision. Volex fired. Once, twice, 3 times. Each shot perfectly placed, buying seconds rather than kills. The 4th round she saved, kept chambered, a final answer to the question she'd been avoiding since this mission began. Kixlar went down hard, an arbiter's blade finding the space between his ribs. His colors flashed through the entire spectrum. Pain, fear, defiance, and something that might have been gratitude. Tell them, he gasped, blood the wrong color pooling beneath him. Tell the galaxy the Dominion can be resisted. Then he died, and the last of humanity's allies in this place went with him. Voss stood alone before the advancing arbiters, raised her weapon, smiled. You want a lesson in human psychology? She asked the universe. Here it is. We don't need to win. We just need you to remember we existed. She fired her last round, not at the arbiters but at the support column behind them, the one Kosi had identified earlier as structurally compromised by their earlier explosives. The railgun slug punched through weakened crystal and physics did what weapons couldn't. The ceiling collapsed. Tons of alien architecture crashed down, crushing arbiters and human alike beneath the weight of impossible geometry. Through the chaos and dust and dying light, Corporal Indira Nkosi reached the Nexus, placed her hand on the activation interface. Thought of Earth, of blue skies she'd never see again, of children who might grow up free because she'd chosen this moment. Pressed down. The Nexus station didn't explode. It transformed. Every quantum processor, every data stream, every fragment of stolen knowledge ignited simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulse expanded at light speed, washing over Dominion ships like a tsunami of coherent destruction. And in that moment of total systems failure, something else happened. Something Admiral Zahn had programmed into the virus with the help of a dozen human hackers and 1 Ithmara defector. The Nexus broadcast its final message across every Dominion-controlled channel, every subjugated world, every species that had bent knee to the celestial throne. A simple sentence in 17 languages. Freedom is not negotiated, it is taken. Followed by footage, every crime the Dominion had committed, every species they'd crushed, every promise they'd broken. 700 years of atrocities, compiled and categorized and delivered to a galaxy that had been forced to forget. The message repeated 3,000 times before the station's power finally failed. By then it was too late to contain. The spark had been lit. 3 days later. Yvmara Home System. Kelnara Prime. The rebellion began quietly, like dawn breaking over a world that had forgotten what sunrise looked like. Growlix was 14 cycles old by Ythmara reckoning. Young enough to still believe change was possible. Old enough to understand what defiance cost. She'd grown up in the generation camps, where the Dominion bred compliant Ythmara who would accept subjugation as natural law. But 3 nights ago something changed. The planetary broadcast network, usually reserved for Dominion propaganda and efficiency mandates, flickered, died. Came back showing images that made her colors flash with emotions she'd been trained to suppress. Humans. Fighting. Dying. And in their final moments choosing to destroy rather than submit. The message that followed burned itself into her genetic memory. Freedom is not negotiated. It is taken. Around her the camp stirred. Whispers spread like fire through dried grass. Names were spoken that had been forbidden for generations. Tixlar, the defector, the traitor, the martyr. They did it, someone breathed. The humans actually attacked the Nexus. And failed, another voice countered. Tinged with the careful pessimism of species that had learned hope was dangerous. Did they? Kralix found herself speaking, her colors brightening with something that felt like courage. They destroyed the station, crippled the Dominion's communications, showed the galaxy that resistance is possible. She looked around the camp, meeting the eyes of her fellow prisoners. Kraxlar promised us that if we waited, if we prepared, one day there would be a sign, a moment when the Dominion's grip loosened enough for us to slip free. This is that moment. The riot began at dawn. It spread through the generation camps like a virus, then jumped to the industrial sectors, the administrative centers, the places where Ythmara had been slowly erased and replaced with obedient copies of themselves. The Dominion garrison responded with their usual mathematical precision, calculated force, optimal suppression algorithms, projected casualty rates that would restore order within 48 hours. But they'd made one critical miscalculation. They'd underestimated how many species had been watching the human broadcast. How many had been waiting for proof that the Dominion could bleed. On 17 worlds, across 42 systems, the subjected species rose. Not coordinated. Not organized. Simply inspired. The galaxy had learned to fear the Dominion. Now it learned to fear something more. The hope that Deathworlders carried like weapons. Earth, Geneva Fortress. 12 days after the Nexus operation, Admiral Catherine Zhang stood before the War Council. Her face carefully neutral despite the storm of emotions beneath. On the holographic display behind her, reports streamed in from across Dominion space: uprisings, rebellions, entire worlds declaring independence and citing the Nexus broadcast as their justification. "We lost the entire strike team," she said quietly. Voss, Park, Nicosia and 9 others, confirmed KIA. No survivors, no recovery possible. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush worlds. General Richard Okonkwo spoke first, his voice rough. "They succeeded. The Nexus is gone. The Dominion communications in that sector are crippled. We've bought ourselves time." "We bought ourselves more than time," Dr. Amara Patel interjected, her tablet displaying data streams that looked like revolution expressed in mathematics. "We bought ourselves allies. 19 species have declared open revolt against the Dominion. 23 more are showing signs of civil unrest. The Empire is fracturing. At what cost?" Senator Lu Fang asked, his face drawn. "We sacrificed 12 of our best operators for everything," Zhang interrupted, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Those 12 humans did something no Dominion calculation predicted. They proved that Deathworld tenacity could break celestial certainty. They showed the galaxy that the throne can be toppled, She pulled up a new file marked with the highest security clearance. And they did something else, something I haven't told anyone outside this room. The display shifted, showing sensor readings that made the scientific members of the council lean forward in confusion. During the Nexus's death throes before the electromagnetic pulse destroyed all local communications, our deep space monitoring stations picked up a secondary transmission. Not from the Nexus, from something else, something using the Nexus's broadcast network to piggyback a message to coordinates beyond Dominion space. What coordinates? Okonkwo demanded. Zhang's smile was terrible to behold. The outmarches, the frontier regions where the Dominion's authority ends and the true galactic powers begin. She expanded the display, showing star systems that had never appeared on any human chart, species that chose isolation rather than subjugation, technologies that predate the Dominion by millions of years, powers that had been waiting for someone to prove that rebellion wasn't just possible, it was worth attempting. Captain Voss included that protocol. Patel's voice carried wonder and horror in equal measure. No, I did. Zhang met each council member's gaze. Because I understood something fundamental. We couldn't win this war alone. We needed the entire galaxy to understand that humans don't just fight for survival. We fight for principle, for the simple, irrational belief that freedom matters more than security. And did it work? Lu Feng asked. Have these powers responded? As if summoned by his question, every display in the chamber flickered. Died. Came back showing a symbol none of them recognized. A spiral within a spiral, mathematics that hurt to perceive. Beauty that suggested intelligence older than Earth's sun. Then a voice, translated into English through technology that shouldn't exist. We have heard your cry, humans of soul. We have witnessed your defiance. For 17,000 cycles we have watched the Dominion spread like infection across this spiral arm. And we have maintained our isolation, believing that order, even cruel order, was preferable to chaos. You have taught us otherwise. The Concordat of Ancient Stars acknowledges your struggle. We cannot fight your war for you. Such intervention would violate principles older than your species. But we can offer what the young races most desperately need: knowledge. Technology. Understanding that will level the mathematical disparity between you and your oppressors. Prove yourselves worthy. Continue your impossible resistance. Show us that humanity's courage is not momentary passion but enduring conviction. Do this, and when the time comes, you will not stand alone. The transmission ended. The chamber remained silent for 17 heartbeats. Then Okonkwo began to laugh, a sound somewhere between joy and madness. Those magnificent bastards. Voss and her team didn't just strike a military target. They sent a message to entities that could end this war. Or escalate it beyond anything we can imagine, Patel cautioned. These ancient stars, if they're as powerful as implied, their intervention could trigger consequences we can't predict. Everything has consequences, Zhang said softly. The question is whether we're willing to accept them. 12 humans died to give us this chance. How many more will we sacrifice if we don't take it? Lu Feng stood, his political instincts warring with something deeper. The part of him that remembered why humans had always fought against impossible odds. What do we need to do? Zhang's expression hardened into pure determination. We need to win. Not just survive, actually achieve victory. Because the ancient stars are watching, and they'll only help those who prove they deserve it. She activated the display again, showing troop deployments, fleet movements, strategic targets. The Dominion is reeling, their empire is fragmenting. But they're not broken, and Vakarel is still out there, still calculating, still believing that order can be restored. So we hit them again, Okonkwo said. Harder, faster. Before they can consolidate. Exactly. We've got 18 months of breathing room. The projections show Dominion fleet reorganization will take at least that long with the Nexus destroyed. We use that time to do the impossible. We forge an alliance between humanity and every subjugated species. We integrate ancient star technology with human innovation, and we build a force that can challenge the celestial throne directly. And then? Lu Feng asked. Zhang's smile promised fire and reckoning. Then we go to war, real war. The kind where we don't just survive, we win. For Captain Voss. For every human who died believing freedom was worth the price. For every alien species that the Dominion crushed into submission. She looked around the table, seeing the shift in their expressions from grief to determination, from fear to fury. The Dominion taught the galaxy to kneel, she said quietly. We're going to teach it to stand. Dominion Capital World, Celestial Throne Prime, in the heart of the Empire, where 17 species representatives gathered to receive orders from the Eternal Council. High Adjudicator, Vokarul stood before beings whose existence predated most civilizations. The Council spoke as one, their harmonics merging into a voice that carried the weight of absolute authority. Explain the Nexus catastrophe. Vokarul felt his thought streams fragment under the pressure of their attention. The humans executed a suicide mission with unexpected consequences. Their objective was not data theft, but symbolic destruction, proving that Dominion infrastructure could be compromised. The psychological impact on subjected populations has been significant. 19 worlds in open revolt, communications networks compromised, regional command structures decapitated. The Council's harmonics carried something that might have been anger if beings of such calculated perfection could experience emotion. You allowed this to occur. I calculated the human assault at 67% probability, Vokarul defended. All tactical responses were optimized for containment. The variable I failed to account for was their willingness to sacrifice themselves not for victory, but for narrative. They didn't need to win. They needed to inspire. And they succeeded. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The humans have done something we believed impossible. They have made defiance appear rational. Every subjected species now questions our authority, not because they believe they can defeat us, but because they believe the attempt itself has value. The Council's attention focused with surgical precision. This philosophical contamination must be purged. You will take command of the Grand Reclamation Fleet. You will return order to the rebellious worlds. You will capture the human homeworld. And you will demonstrate to the galaxy that courage without power is simply another form of extinction. It will be done, Vokarul said, his harmonics carrying absolute conviction. But deep in his mind, in thought streams he shared with no one, a question festered. If the humans could inspire rebellion with defeat, what could they achieve with victory? Sol system, high orbit above Earth, 36 hours later. The shipyards of humanity had never stopped building. Even during the darkest days of the war, when defeat seemed inevitable and surrender felt logical, the forges kept burning. Every orbital platform, every asteroid mining station, every resource that could be converted to steel and determination had been focused on a single purpose: survival. Yes, but also defiance. Admiral Zhang floated in the observation deck of Shipyard Prime, watching the latest vessel slide from its construction cradle. The UNSC Prometheus was unlike anything humanity had built before. Part human engineering, part reverse-engineered Dominion technology, part something else entirely. The ancient stars had kept their promise, delivering data packages that expanded human understanding of physics in ways that would take generations to fully comprehend. But they'd learned enough to build this. A dreadnought-class ship that could stand against the Dominion's capital vessels. One ship wouldn't be enough. Jing pulled up the production schedules, seeing the timeline stretch out before her like a countdown to apocalypse. 18 months to build a fleet. 18 months to train crews. 18 months to forge 17 species worth of rebels into a coordinated fighting force. 18 months before the Dominion came for Earth with everything they had. Her comm chimed. Okonkwo's face appeared, his expression grim. Chen. We've got confirmed sightings. The Dominion is mobilizing. Vokarul has been given command of their Grand Reclamation Fleet. 200 capital ships, 10,000 support vessels, and enough ground forces to pacify 50 worlds simultaneously. How long before they reach Sol? Best estimate: 17 months, 20 days. They're gathering their forces first, crushing the rebellions we inspired, making examples of any world that dared to stand against them. Zhang did the math instantly. They'd have the fleet barely functional when the Dominion arrived. Not enough time to train, not enough time to coordinate, Not enough time for anything except desperate last stands. Unless, what if we don't wait? She heard herself say. Elaborate. The Dominion expects us to defend Earth, to fortify the homeworld and make them pay for every inch. But that's predictable. That's what every subjugated species does in their final days. Yi Zhang's mind raced, tactical possibilities cascading through her thoughts. What if we did something no rational military would attempt? Catherine. Okonkwo's voice carried warning. We take the fight to them. We launch Operation Prometheus Phase 2 not as a defensive war but as an offensive strike. We hit their gathering fleets before they can consolidate. We inspire the rebellious worlds to fight harder by showing them humanity doesn't wait for death to arrive. We hunt it down and make it bleed. That's insane. That's human. Zhang smiled. And it's exactly what Captain Voss died to make possible. She didn't sacrifice herself so we could cower on Earth waiting for extinction. She did it so we could become the spark that burns the Dominion to ash. Okonkwo was silent for a long moment. Then, you'll have the full support of the military. But Zhang, we lose this gambit, and there's nothing left. No fallback position, no plan. I know. Zhang looked out at the growing fleet, seeing in its steel the hope of every human who'd ever dared to dream of freedom. But we were never going to win by playing it safe. We win by being what the Dominion can't understand: irrational, illogical, and too damn stubborn to accept defeat. When do we launch? Zhang checked the timeline one final time. 6 months. Give me 6 months to finish building the fleet, to coordinate with our new allies, to prepare for the kind of war that will either shatter the Dominion's empire or end humanity's story permanently. And if it's the latter, Admiral Catherine Zhang's expression carried the weight of every soldier who died believing freedom was worth any price. Then we make sure the galaxy remembers we existed, that we fought, that we proved Deathworlders don't surrender. They just choose better ways to make you regret the fight. She cut the comm, turned back to watch the ships being born, and began planning humanity's greatest gamble.